half of Cooley Law School graduates just failed the bar exam based on recent ABA data just published from 2025. Cooley's first time bar passage rate is 51.45%, which means that nearly half of all students who graduated from Cooley last year failed the bar on their first try. The American Bar Association actually published a list of 6 law schools that just dropped below the bar passage requirements to remain accredited. Cooley is just one of them. If you're applying to law school right now, you've got to know the other 5 names, and you've got to know what this data actually means for you and how to make sure you don't end up at a law school that's about to lose accreditation. Now, today I'm going to name all 6 law schools that the ABA just dropped below their accreditation floor. I'm going to show you the 3 numbers every law school applicant should pull on every law school they're considering. The good news is these numbers are public, they're free, and almost nobody looks at them. I'm also going to share with you one email you can send to any law school admissions office, and their reply or lack of one is going to tell you whether the law school has a real plan for getting you past the finish line, helping you pass the bar. For quick context, the ABA is the American Bar Association. They are the organization that accredits law schools, and they publish a giant spreadsheet every year listing every law school's bar passage rate. The most recent list came out 2 weeks ago. You might have saw the headline out of New York last month. The February 2026 bar exam pass rate was only 41%. Now, what you got to know for context there is that 41 isn't every U.S. law school grad. February bar exam takers are a smaller pool. It's heavy on retakers and lawyers who trained outside the U.S. The ABA grad number in New York was 77%, but that's an average. Stanford Law School, their 2025 first-time bar passage rate was 99.43%. 175 out of 176 students passed. Yale, Duke, Harvard, SMU, and Texas all ranging 97 to 98% bar passage rate. So basically, if you go to one of those law schools, you're virtually guaranteed to pass the bar. But look at the bottom of the same list in the same year from the same ABA data. Cooley, approximately half. Appalachian School of Law, 54.76% bar passage rate. DC, 57.89% bar passage rate. In New York specifically, Toro Law sits at only 67.86%. The state average in New York is 87%. So Toro grads pass the bar exam 19 points below the state average. CUNY Law's bar passage rate is 69.04% in the same state. Again, almost 18 points below the average. And before you think to yourself, well, I would never go to one of those law schools, I want you to stay with me because there are over 40 law schools with first-time bar passage rates below 75%. You might be considering some of them without even realizing it. Now, the schools at the bottom of the list are often the same schools sending you the most aggressive scholarship offers right now. In other words, they got to fill seats, so they're offering more scholarship money. They're giving you a lot more nice email messages. They're telling you that you're special. They might fly you out for the weekend. And then 3 years later, you're in a hotel ballroom in Albany, writing a 6-hour exam on 3 hours of sleep. Now, this is not Suits. There's no Harvey Specter waiting in to save your career. This is you alone in a chair with a stack of essays you got to write in 90 minutes. And the school that recruited you so hard prepared roughly only half of the students to actually do this job. And failing the bar is beyond embarrassing. You walk out of 3 years of law school with a JD that you can't use. I mean, most law-adjacent jobs require you to be admitted to the bar. And every year that you delay, your classmates are pulling ahead. Now, I'm not telling you to turn down a scholarship, but look at the school's ROI based on the ABA data before you accept the offer of admission. Now, the ABA has a regulation called Standard 316. Every accredited law school has to maintain an ultimate bar passage rate of at least 75% within 2 years of graduation. Ultimate means everybody who eventually passes, whether it's their first, second, third, fourth attempt. As long as you pass the bar within 2 years, you're good. Now, 75% is the floor. If a law school drops below that, they are out of compliance. The ABA can put the school on notice. In extreme cases, they can yank accreditation, meaning the school can't operate anymore. Then this year, 6 schools dropped below the line. They are Southern University Law School in Louisiana, Cooley, Florida A&M, University of the District of Columbia, Barry University in Florida, and Inter-American University of Puerto Rico. And I've done deep dives on these schools before, but they are the riskiest, they are the worst law schools. I would consider them to be in the country, not worth going to even at a full ride. And you can look up the data yourself in the law school's 509 report. Now, the next time the ABA puts out this list in about a year from now, there's a good chance it's going to be a longer list, even though law school apps are at an all-time high, maybe especially because of that. Because we're looking at the most competitive law school cycle in decades. Applicants are up year over year, over year again. They're up over the past 2 years, roughly 25%, which means that schools that used to accept you at a 165 LSAT are now waitlisting you. The schools that used to give you a half scholarship at 168 are now giving you nothing. Now, the schools at the bottom of the bar passage chart, they just had their best applicant pool in a decade, so they're going to fill their classes. Now, in past years, a lot of those applicants would have gone to better law schools, but they couldn't last year because this cycle is brutal. And so they're showing up at schools that have a track record of their students failing the bar. In 3 years, the new people entering will sit for the bar, and whichever ones don't pass count against that school's ultimate bar passage rate. So for context, when I took the LSAT for the first time, I scored a 152. A 152 in 2026 puts you at schools whose first-time bar passage rates run in the 50s and 60s. The schools at the bottom of that ABA chart I was just sharing with you. And so I studied and studied. I worked through every official LSAT practice test, went deep on logical reasoning, went deep on reading comp, ultimately got my score up to a 175, opened you up to the top law schools like Stanford, Yale, Harvard, Duke, schools where 98 to 99% of students pass the bar on their first try. So that gap is the gap between a 51% shot at passing and a 99% shot at passing. Same person, different score, different life. Now, I'm not saying you need to have a 175. Most people don't. That's not the point. The point is that every point you add to your LSAT score is a point that buys you access to schools that don't fail their grads on the bar. And so if you're sitting at a 152 or a 158 or a 161, whatever, and you're about to deposit at a law school that will take you because you're tired and you want to be done with this, I want you to think again. Take the LSAT again, retake it 2, 3, 4 times if you got it, because the score that you get will determine the next 3 years of your life and determine the trajectory of your entire legal career. Now, you can look up the stats for any of the law schools I mentioned, Barry in Texas, Florida A&M, Cooley, University of DC, and so on. Every law school publishes a 509 report. That is a document the ABA forces them to put out every single year. It's called Standard 509 Required Disclosures. You could find it for free. You look at it, you find the bar passage section. You're looking for 3 things. Thing number 1 is their first-time bar passage rate. What percentage of last year's grads passed the bar exam on the first try? The national average in 2025 was 84.1%. So that's your benchmark. If a school's in the 90s, that's great. If they're in the 80s, that's okay. 70s, ask some questions. 50s or 60s, you want to walk the other way. Number 2, ultimate bar passage rate. Basically, the number that eventually clear the bar, including retakes within 2 years of graduating. Then number 3 is the state pass rate average. As a benchmark, a 60% pass rate in California means something totally different than a 60% pass rate in Wisconsin because different states have different bar exams. Some are harder than others. California has the hardest bar exam in the country. And so schools there post lower numbers because the test is brutal, not because the school is necessarily bad. In Wisconsin, graduates from in-state schools don't even take the bar exam at all. They have something called diploma privilege. So compare the school that you're looking at against the state average within that state. If they're more than 10 points below the state average, that's a yellow flag. If they're 15 below, that's a red flag. 20 below, again, go the other way, turn around, don't consider it. Now, some schools will say to you that bar passage comes down to the student. A smart, hardworking student can pass anywhere, and that's partially true, but that's also in their interest to say. If a school's pass rate runs below 20%, the state average year over year, that's not a coincidence. The system is failing the students it was meant to serve. Now, I wanted to talk about the email that you should send admissions. If you've already gotten in somewhere and you're choosing between law schools, again, pull the 509 reports, then ask the school, can you share with me your academic support and bar prep program for students in the bottom half of the class? If they can tell you there's a specific program with named staff and the number of hours they're putting into it per week, where in the curriculum it starts, what the outcomes are, that's great. If they just give you a glossy paragraph with vague superlatives, that's your answer. That means they don't really have a plan. They don't really care. And of course, by definition, half the people in the class are going to be in the bottom half, and everyone thinks they're not going to be there, but half of them are wrong. And so the question is, if you're in that bottom half, does the school have a real plan for you, or are they just going to take your money? Now remember, different schools, very different outcomes. Stanford grads pass the bar at 99%. Cooley grads pass the bar at 51%. It's a 48-point gap. In the same year, in the same country, where you go to school does make a big difference in terms of your outcomes, in terms of getting into better law, in terms of bar passage rates, employment outcomes, the scholarships that you get, the debt that you take on. If you want my help getting the highest possible LSAT score so that you will end up with better outcomes, I'm here to help you out. I'm offering free LSAT tutoring for everybody watching this now or later. The link to book that free tutoring lesson with me is unpluggedprep.com/start. The link is below the video on YouTube, pinned in the chat on YouTube, in my bio on TikTok and IG as well.